I'm very pleased to welcome back a wonderful singer that we've had, I think, twice now. And we're going to do the prelude, very famous song, Over the Rainbow. And to sing this and our postlude, please welcome Janine Williams.
That I heard of once in a lullaby. Somewhere over the rainbow, skies are blue, and the dreams that you dare to dream really do come true. Someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the stars are far behind me. Where troubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me. Somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds birds fly over the rainbow. Why then, oh why can't I? If happy little bluebirds fly beyond the rainbow, why, oh, why can't I?
That was lovely, thank you. Good afternoon. And my name is Priscilla Taylor, and I am today's Surface Associate. Ted Fahy, with whom I'm vaguely acquainted, will be presenting our message this afternoon. Before we begin, I invite you to please scroll up so I can keep reading, to please take a moment to put your phones in worship mode. I like that. Isn't that great? Okay, our words of welcome this afternoon are by Fra Giovanni, a Renaissance scholar and Franciscan friar. If you can keep the script about half, the way you scrolled yesterday was perfect. I salute you. I am your friend, and my love for you goes deep. There's nothing I can give you which you have not, but there is much, very much that, while I cannot give it, you can take. No heaven can come to us unless our hearts find rest in it today. Take heaven. No peace lies in the future, which is not hidden in this present little instant. Take peace. The gloom of the world is but a shadow. Behind it, yet within our reach, is joy. There is radiance and glory in darkness, could we but see. And to see, we have only to look. I beseech you to look. Life is so generous a giver, but we, judging its gifts by their covering, cast them away as ugly or heavy or hard. Remove the covering and you will find beneath it a living splendor, woven of love by wisdom with power. Welcome it, grasp it, and you touch the angel's hand that brings it to you. And so, I just want to welcome you to our LCUUF Sunday service. May you find solace, understanding, and connection in our shared community. If you're new and would like to receive our newsletter and other emails, please talk to a member of the welcome team or write to us at info@lcuuf.org. Members of the welcome team, raise your hands. Okay, and now a special welcome to our visitors. If you're visiting with us for the first time, or have returned or reconnected with us after a long absence, we invite you to say your name, tell us where you're from. If you're on Zoom, please introduce yourself in the chat box, and it will be read aloud in the fellowship. We will start with people in the room. Do we have visitors today? There's one. The mic is... right there. We're all pointing at you.
Hi, I'm returning. I'm Bobby Dannenbrink. I've been a member for 1,000 years. I'm glad to be back. Hi. I'm here for 4 months to get away from the New York weather.
Welcome. And, Kate, do we have any visitors on Zoom? Mic issue, sorry.
We have no visitors with us on Zoom today.
Thank you. So welcome to our visitors and newcomers both in person and on Zoom. Here at LCUUF, we offer a wide variety of services on various topics presented by our members, outside guests, as well as our minister, Reverend Matt Alspa. We hope you'll be able to return to sample this variety of thought and belief. Now it's time to light the chalice. Our chalice lighting words today are by Francis Koziar, who is a UU poet. May we light this chalice this afternoon to remind us of the power and beauty of balance and contrast. It is darkness that can make the flame of a single candle so powerful, and light that deepens those shadows in turn. The chalice flame is the meeting point, the union of that refuge, safety, and incredible beauty of darkness, and the warmth, the assurance, and the joy of light. Now, having lit our chalice, let us sing these words together.
Rekindle this light in celebration for the life that we share.
Now, this is the time in our service where we can briefly share our joys, our sorrows, our concerns, and our milestones, because there's power in this sharing as we hold each other in community. Just a sentence or two is enough. We will start in the folks in the room to give those on Zoom a chance to type joys and sorrows into the chat to be read out loud by Kate. As the mic is passed, please share your sorrows, whatever you or the world may be holding that is in need of our healing and caring thoughts, and or your joys, whatever you may be celebrating, whatever evokes a feeling of joy or peace for yourself or others. Are there joys and or sorrows that people would like to share here in the room?
I'm Richard, and I published over the weekend on Amazon a new book, and this is a book of history and anthropology, and it is Tamil villages the spiritual heart of South India. It's got more than 125 pages and more than 100 photographs, most of which were taken by Carol and I while we were in India. And I want to thank Bob Coaches, who also reviewed it and gave me some comments before publication.
Any other joys or sorrows?
Well, it's been one hell of a week. Some of you know this, and many of you probably don't. But the Lake Parlour Orchestra has, virtually since its existence, performed at the Lakeside Presbyterian Church. And we've been able to sell both concerts out, and we've had great success there. On Wednesday, I got a call from Carolyn Hanson, the minister there, that the Spanish-speaking church had done a coup d'etat and had kicked out the English-speaking church. I'm not going to go into the politics of it. Suffice it to say, the Spanish church said they are not going to rent the facility out anymore to any other organization. That includes the orchestra, that includes the choir and anybody else that uses it. And remember, we paid rent to do that, which we were quite happy to do. And I was shocked and stunned. We got a concert in 2 weeks' time, 2 concerts. So, bit of running around, and my wife and I went to visit any venue that we possibly thought could hold the concerts. We found one up on the Libramiento, the technical college. They have an auditorium there, and it can seat 400 people, and with an orchestra of 60. And they were very happy to help us out. It's got everything that the church had, video screens, audio, and I think we'll even be able to have a bar, which we weren't able to. And I'm so delighted that and many of you that have bought tickets or are sponsors have already received an email from me regarding the situation. So we're now just doing one concert on the Saturday, and the Friday people that have tickets, and it has been sold out, we've now moved them to the Saturday afternoon, which is a joy for a lot of people because a lot of people didn't want to come out at night. So it's a win-win situation, and I have to thank the Anglican Church here because at the last minute they allowed us to have the orchestra rehearsal yesterday. We had 60 musicians crammed into it. It was loud. But they have been so helpful, the Anglican Church, to us. We managed to get most of our equipment out of the church, and we're going to haul it. It's in storage here at the moment, but we're going to haul it all up to the technical college during the week. So, as you can imagine, it's been a few sleepless nights. And then I had a technical problem this morning with my equipment. So it was like, okay, that's the icing on the cake. Anyway, that's my sorrow and joy.
Others? Okay. Any joys or sorrows on Zoom?
Yes, we do. We have, from Mike Blanco to everyone, extreme sorrow for his hometown of Los Angeles.
Yeah. And I would add to that, to make it even more real and more personal, our daughter sings professionally. It's not a full-time job, it is one of her jobs. And she was in Carmen last year, and one of her co-singers had a house in Altadena, and they only purchased it a year and a half ago, and everything is gone. So there's a GoFundMe page that we've been contributing to. So, and the turnout has been astonishing for that family. Okay, onward. This candle from our care team, we light to represent the joys and sorrows spoken and witnessed today. as well as those we hold in the silent sanctuary of our hearts. Let us share a moment of silence. As we know, the work of our fellowship within these walls and beyond takes our time, treasure, and our talents. Now is the time in our service for our offering. As we pass the baskets, if you are new here today or you're struggling to hold things together, please let the basket pass you by. Your presence is more than enough and is a gift to us. Please know that we give all of the money collected at the service to an organization providing services to our lakeside community. For January, we will be donating the basket to Tepewa in Chapala, which is considered one of the poorest neighborhoods in the state of Jalisco. The description is on the monitor. We take to heart these words by UU Minister Erica Hewitt. The offering that we take each Sunday isn't just a stale habit. It's an opportunity to recommit to this place and to this people. Our offering is an affirmation, a yes. When we give, we say yes to something we value. With our gifts freely given, may we say yes to the values of our faith. May our offering help us practice Unitarian Universalism within and beyond our congregation. May this offering sustain and grow the life and work of this congregation. May we give in love and in hope for a better world. Our opening hymn is Peace, the Perfect Word, with our song leaders and Michael Reason. Please rise in body or in spirit and join us in singing.
I will play it through once, okay, so that you can hear the tune. A lot of our song leaders are away, so those that are here, thank you.
Today's reading is Some Keep the Sabbath by Emily Dickinson. Some keep the Sabbath going to church. I keep it staying at home with a bobolink for a chorister and an orchard for the dome. Some keep the Sabbath in surplice. I just wear my wings. And instead of tolling the bell for church, our little sexton sings. God preaches, a noted clergyman, and the sermon is never long. So, instead of getting to heaven at last, I'm going all along.
Okay.
And
Yep. Everyone can hear? Yeah. So, I want to start with a quote by Father Thomas Keating, who was a brilliant priest and mystic. We crave a cohesive narrative of our own existence, and will even invent stories to give us a more complete picture. Today's meditation started with what has become for me a typical marital moment, but you need context. When Priscilla and I fell in love over 40 years ago, she embraced my 4 children, with great enthusiasm and love. We rode on Lake Huron in McCormick Bay. We biked on the Leelanau Peninsula near Traverse City, Michigan. We attended entirely too many terrible children's ballet performances. Yep. We crewed our friend Jack's 71-foot schooner on Lake Michigan. We had a cathedral ceiling with 12-foot Christmas trees, and we ate dinner in our tiny kitchen practically every night whenever the kids were with us. So one evening, in the middle of a conversation during dinner, I thought I heard a worrisome noise, and in quite the manly, protective voice, I didn't ask, "What do I hear?" Instead, "What do I sound?" Weird. The kids couldn't stop laughing for several minutes, and it became family legend. Well, a couple of weeks ago, Priscilla said something in the other room. I'm totally helpless without my hearing aids. Totally. So I yelled, "I can't hear you. I don't have my glasses in." Truth. Pris promptly walked into the room and said, "You realize that you just said you couldn't hear me because you didn't have your glasses in." And stunned, I just whispered, "Oh my God, I've lost it." And without missing a beat, she asked, "How would we ever know?" It's true. So as we reminisced, she said that no, we hadn't been at the dining room table. We'd been playing a game in the living room, and I absolutely did not remember that. So of late, this issue, discovering that my memory doesn't match reality, has been a recurring theme. Last year, as we were getting our home in Washington State ready to sell, I started reading my journals from college and found out in a hurry that fundamental real-time events, like when did I decide to become a doc, didn't match my memory at all. I also corresponded with my sophomore year roommate, Glenn Forbes, and his experience of that year bore no relationship to what I recall. I was depressed. I had felt horribly alone. I was in the wrong major and hardly remember any interaction with him. But he says it was wonderful and that we had incredible conversations about all manner of topics. It has been disturbing to discover how frequently, in matters large and small, my story is imaginary here, enhanced there, and just plain wrong in other ways. So it makes me feel as though some aspects of my life are lies. It's disorienting to discover that who I was is not who I was. So today's a reflection on stories with a little physics thrown in, why we have stories, why we hold on to them, what happens when we discover our stories are false, and then why we have to let them go. So there have always been stories to explain our foundations, our origins as humans, stories to answer the simplest and most difficult of questions. How is it that we exist? What's our basis? Of course, we're all familiar in one way or another with Genesis, right? The word Adam, Adam, appears for the first time in the 26th verse of the first chapter of Genesis. And it's a really curious word. The root for the word Adam it also means the color red, and comes from the same three-letter root as Adamah, which can mean red clay. Just as interesting, for me anyway, the Hebrew word for God, Elohim, actually is plural and has a feminine ending. So, Genesis 2:7, usually translated as, the Lord God formed man from the dust of the earth, right, might just as easily be translated as, the goddesses shaped an earthling from red clay. The authors of Genesis tell us a story to explain how we humans were created. And in that telling, divine beings are the sculptors. The sculptors. But I experience Genesis differently. We humans share roughly 90% of our DNA with mice, dogs, cattle, and elephants. Biologically, the difference between myself and a mouse is a genetic hat trick. That's what it is. It's an accent of geological time. Genesis doesn't even remotely address, for me, what's the deepest question. Not how we human creatures physically came to be, but how did Ted come to be Ted? Or Eric, or Sharon, or Joni, or Charlie, or any one of us. Not physically, but as conscious beings. How did I come to be the person who is here today? And in that telling, for me, divinity plants the seed, but it is not and never was the only or even the principal sculptor of my life. From our births, we're given foundational stories. Stories our parents, our families tell us as they fashion us, as they tell us not so much who we are as what we are meant to be, what they want and demand that we be. They don't give us ordinary tales with beginnings and middles and endings. Right? No, that's not how human development works. They do something far more creative. They shape us by who they themselves are, by how they act, by their own hopes, their own fears. Our parents, our caretakers, scoop us out of our placental red blood, and with literally hundreds of thousands of commands, instructions, hugs, kisses, looks, caresses, and stares, they shape us into the figures of their imagination on their pottery wheels. And just as artists talk about negative spaces, equally important for their sculpting are the moments of neglect, or absence, or simply silence. The times when they don't come to us, they don't rescue us, they leave us in our toddler wilderness to wail. So in such manner, they dig us out of the clay pits, and they carve us, and they pinch us, and they shape us, and they give us our initial mythical selves. So, I have a question. Do you remember anything when you were 1 year old? Anyone in this room remember anything from age 1? She says 8 months. I do. I'm absolutely certain of it. I remember, and I swear to you, I remember being bathed in the kitchen sink. It's as real in my memory as these images of Nawales. And I would guess some, and it was true, some in the room have similar memories. Like these, your memories are so strong and so vivid that if I were to tell you that such memories are essentially biologically impossible, you would be indignant, maybe angry. But in fact, almost no human being has an autobiographical memory before age 1.5 to 2. For physiological and neurological reasons, we can't. What do we have? We have tales our mothers and fathers told us. We have images as mythical as dragons of the days when, for us, giants and monsters walked the earth. Stories that infuse our blood with the deepest knowledge about our lives. This is who I am. This is what I did long before I really could understand. These are my core events. These are my people. In our first several years, our tribe begins its artful labors of instruction, shaping our lives, and they tell us what we did and how that fits into the myth of the family, and whether we're fundamentally good or bad, sometimes bad, whether we're worthy and have value, who's the stranger, who's to be feared, whether and when we should be welcoming, and whether and what we should believe. We're sculpted from the moments of our births, reshaped and refined for decades, and after that we're turned loose on ourselves and on the world. And then what happens? What happens is we hold on to our stories, we hug them, and we cultivate them. So, let's talk physics. Swings are awesome, right? Priscilla and I took Lulu for a walk at the San Antonio Malecon a while back, and we happened on a swing nestled next to a concrete picnic fire pit, and we swung. We hadn't done that for years. What's a swing? What is a swing? It's simply a pendulum with a seat, but it's so much more. It's a chance to touch the sky, to create one's own wind, to move with your eyes closed, to fly. And it's also an excellent demonstration of how our sculpted stories can grow, become massively exaggerated, get disconnected from reality, and even damage us, sometimes badly. A swing uses a simple notion. Once you start it, it requires the gentlest touch at precisely the right time, almost no force at all, to increase its amplitude. We all know how that works. In physics, this phenomenon is called resonance. Now, I could show you a pendulum, but let's see something a little more dramatic. That was the famous Tacoma Narrows Bridge. And that was concrete. What you just saw was resonance. What you saw was a gentle wind, really, by comparison with stuff that happens. 40-mile-an-hour wind set up a gentle twisting. And then it kept amplifying it. And shortly after that film was taken, the bridge tore itself apart. Our initial stories about ourselves, our myths, if you will, form our center, and we nurture and treasure them. And just as a pendulum's motion is amplified with the slightest well-timed touch, anything that reinforces our core is taken in and strengthens our notion of ourselves, and we stubbornly solidify ourselves and resist information that contradicts our worldview. Once started, our myths resonate. They're self-reinforcing. And the energy necessary to amplify such resonance is barely perceptible. We may not even realize that we're being pushed. Memory is an essential part of the process. We remember the events that nurture our sense of self and conform to our myth, and we forget those that don't. Our stories acquire lives of their own. It's terribly difficult to change one's direction, one's beliefs, one's opinion about oneself. It can take a major event, something that can really shock us out of our complacency. Now, if we're lucky, there will come moments when we are confronted with the following words. You are not at all who you think you are. I imagine most of us have had such moments. They may come from many places, from our life partners, from our employers, workmates, colleagues, our own children, our brothers, sisters, our parents, neighbors, teachers, strangers, or friends, even from our own journals or others' written comments discovered decades later, from people who love us, sit and hold our hands and speak softly and look at us with compassion, and from people who despise us and want us to rot in hell. Now, I'm very privileged, and that has often protected me, my privilege has. It's a shock to be asked to do a seemingly trivial task, to look at oneself in a mirror held by another. Often I don't recognize the person I see. He simply doesn't fit my story. But it's so necessary. And I've had many of those moments. So what I want to share with you is one of my most treasured memories of painful, necessary discovery. My big sister Caroline was 8 years older than I was. And in all the ways that count, I didn't know her. She was simply my grown-up big sis. And then 16 years ago in July 2008, my niece Jessica called and told me Caroline was in the hospital with fluid on the lungs. She was a heavy smoker, and I knew immediately what that meant. So I flew out to New Jersey to be with her several days later when she was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. I had loved her, but how could I have known her? What fourth grader can know a sister who is a senior in high school? Now there was no more time. I wanted to learn who she was before she died, so over the next year and a half, every 2 months, I flew to New Jersey and spent a week with her. I cooked her meals, I cleaned the house, we played endless rounds of Uno and Skip-Bo, and in some of the holiest, most intimate moments of my life, she told me her story. She also told me who I had been. What a brat I had been. How she had to scheme with my parents to have her friend, Joe Martz, come over one weekend evening to distract me so I wouldn't ruin our sister Melinda's first date. How selfish I was, how impulsive I was, how embarrassing I was for her when she had high school friends over. She really didn't like me for a very, very long time. And in the telling of it over our card games, she wasn't mean about it. She was just honest because she loved me. She was out of time, and her unburdening was part of the sharing that enabled us to become truly brother and sister. I was 62 years old when she showed me a part of myself that I didn't know existed. It was very painful to hear, and I am thankful for it to this day. Those months made our relationship whole and have given me a great deal more humility. So, how does one react to such dislocation, to discovering how little we know about ourselves, to learning what hurt we have caused? Well, one path is prolonged, intense guilt. But here's what Father Keating would say about that. His language, now you have to realize, he's an old guy and he's a priest from an old time. But his language and theology are Catholic and very dated, but the spirit of his message is profound.
Most of us are doing something 7 to 70 times every day that, we just as soon not have done. I mean, we said a nasty word, or we didn't look at someone who needed a kind smile, or any of the 101 things that we sometimes do when we're not in the presence of God. It's so important to remember that you only have to be sorry now for all of your sins to be wiped away. No need to wait to go to confession. You do that at an appropriate time, if you can find a confessor nowadays. The main thing is that as soon as you're sorry, God has totally forgotten whatever our faults were, and we would be very happy if we would forget it too. As I've said elsewhere, if you have guilt feelings for more than 10 or 15 seconds, it's neurotic. It has nothing to do with genuine contrition or compunction. It's simply the sadness that comes from pride in recognizing that we're not as big shot or as perfect as we thought we would be.
Let me repeat what Father Keating just said. Sustained guilt is a fundamental act of pride. My months with Caroline were not the first hard lessons I've had to endure regarding the difference between who I wished to think I was, how I behaved, and what I remembered, between my mythical past and my historical past. And I know they won't be the last. But 16 years ago, my sister gave me something new and precious, which has been my touchstone ever since. It doesn't matter that I was never who I thought I was. That's irrelevant. She taught me to shed my history, to hear her message, but to shed my guilt and to love her now. She taught me that what mattered then, what matters now is not my past. What matters is that I be present in the world and present to others. She freed me. She freed me. A few more thoughts. In this extraordinary fellowship, we all have wildly different notions about the presence or absence of God, the existence or not of the divine. My personal belief is that there is divine sentient transcendence. Beyond that, it's above my pay grade. I don't know who God is or what God is. What I do believe is that we are one another's servants and that we manifest love through service and presence. I believe we're infused with the divine and that there's great mystery in our very marrow. And my fundamental existential decision is trust. I trust that the love I see outweighs all fear. I trust that reconciliation is conversion to love and is always possible. I trust that God is love. I know that the butterflies I've so carefully watched in the past here and the bumblebees I've watched up north all will be gone in a blink. And I believe that I've given a featherweight's more meaning to their lives by my simple act of appreciation. I know that my presence in times of grief sometimes helps. I do the best I can, and I trust that it's enough. We have precious little choice in the things that matter. But this day, we can choose to be in awe, aware, and present, to grieve and celebrate with the world, and to be filled with gratitude for all. And we should be grateful that we have been given this day, this single day, to listen, to watch, to labor, to eat, to see yet another butterfly flit among the blossoms.
Closing hymn. All people that on earth do dwell, please rise in body or in spirit and join the song leaders in singing. Our closing words are by Rumi, the Persian poet. Do not try to put out a fire by throwing on more fire. Do not wash a wound with blood. No matter how fast you run, your shadow more than keeps up. Sometimes it's in front. Only full overhead sun diminishes your shadow. But that shadow has been serving you. What hurts you blesses you. Darkness is your candle. Your boundaries are your quest. Let us extinguish our chalice, which these words, which we read together. They're really dinky on my screen now. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we keep in our hearts and share with all the world.
Must have been cold there in my shadow to never have sunlight on your face. You were content to let me shine, that's your way. You always walked a step behind. So I was the one with all the glory, while you were the one with all the strength. A beautiful face without a name for so long, a beautiful smile to hide the pain. to be. I can fly higher than an eagle, 'cause you were the wind beneath my wings. It might have appeared to go unnoticed, but I've got it all here in my heart. I want you to know I know the truth. Of course I know it. I would be nothing without you. Did you ever know that you're my hero? And everything I would like to be. I can fly higher than an eagle, 'cause you are the wind beneath my wings. 'Cause you are the wind beneath my wings.
This concludes our worship is over. Our service begins. Go in peace and with a purpose. And I think I left something out.